Hello and welcome back to the Real Life Podcast. It's been a while. I hope none of you are expecting a regular upload schedule. I don't think anyone is though, because there's only about 6 people that actually listen to this. However, we have a returning guest. You should probably just call him a co-host by now. Michael Wyllie, welcome back.
No, very much returning guest.
Okay. Well,
co-host implies responsibility.
True, but if it was down to my mother, you'd be here every week instead of me. So I promised at the end of the Christmas episode that there would be a pod with more than one guest, and that is still meant to be happening, but just one of them cancelled on us this particular week.
Yeah,
so
well, that's just part of the course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But today we're going to have a chat about James Bond and the role it played in creating the conditions for modern cinema, or its role within modern cinema. We were debating about what to actually talk about, and we came across this sort of
weird mix of, we're part just going through Daniel Craig's Bond films, partly just talking about the whole franchise, partly just talking about the whole film industry, really, because it's a biggie in especially like the blockbuster cycle.
Yeah,
plays a massive role in shaping that.
Definitely.
I'm gonna argue though that it's been shaped more than it's done the shaping.
Yeah,
ever since 2002.
Okay,
but we'll jump into that later.
I may well end up agreeing with you, because it seems to me that in my eyes, Bond films are very often trend followers, and I think in that sense it kind of makes sense to use them as a viewpoint of where cinema's at across the various stages.
What the general trend is. Yeah.
The first thing I want to address, I think this is sort of a non-negotiable, but Craig is the best Bond.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Craig, Connery.
Yeah.
God, I can barely remember the names.
Brosnan. Well, I don't know.
Brosnan holds a special place in my heart. I just can't dislike that man.
I get that.
I don't know why.
I like Pierce Brosnan.
But that's just because of who Pierce Brosnan is. I don't think he's. Yeah. I think he's among the lower Bonds.
I think he probably is actually on the whole. And people don't like David Niven, but David Niven was actually all right.
Yeah.
I think for me though, Roger Moore sits comfortably at the bottom.
Yes. Yes.
For his films and just his.
You know, I've only seen one of the Roger Moore films, and I don't even know which one.
That's because they're all the same, so you don't need to see any more than that. Let's start at number 5 for Craig's Bonds.
And let's be honest.
It's
Quantum.
Okay, good. Yeah. Or Question of Sport, as I've been calling it for quite a while. Tell me what you think about Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace was their first attempt to build a multi-movie story arc for Bond. The problem is they didn't have the rights to Spectre.
Sure.
Hence the whole Quantum part.
Yeah.
They just sort of made that up and used the title from one of the original books and nothing else. It had an incredibly rushed production cycle, and just the production team behind it were kind of... I get the impression they thought they could just make a Bond, there's a lot of Bond tropes in there.
Yeah.
I got the impression they thought they could just make a Bond film as if it doesn't have to be a good action film all its own. And thought they could get away with it.
Sure. I am totally with you. This Quantum of Solace is just the most... This is coming soon. Bond film. That's what this was. Yes. It, to me, is an advert, I think, for Bond. I mean, there's a lot of product placement in it, but... oh,
God, yeah.
This was the first time... Well, I mean, this was the first time that the film was carried by Daniel Craig, because he didn't need to necessarily carry it with Casino Royale, because that was a much, much better film.
Yes.
And so I think this was about setting up him and actually his relationship with M as a sort of focal point for where the series was going to go.
Yeah.
But I think it feels scriptless, and there's even Roger Moore says there's no geography in the film whatsoever.
Roger Moore said this?
Yeah, he did. He said he's got no idea what's going on. Whether that's just because he's old and confused, I don't know. But, that's what he said. And his films are shocking, so for him to say that...
Yeah.
That kind of
goodness
tells you something. This, actually, if we're talking about cinematic trends and where this fits in, this is Michael Bay.
Oh, God, you're right.
This is... this is explodey, shooty.
Lens flare.
Lens flare, exactly, yeah. It's got a lot of conventional action, but story-wise, it's very thin. Now, I thought this had a Bourne-esque trend where, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this, where if you were asked to explain the plot... Say if you're asked to explain the plot of Inception, you'd say there's a dream machine and they go deeper into dreams to try and rescue Cobb's conscience. If you describe the plot of this, you go, this happens, and then this happens, and then he wants Bolivian oil, but he can't do that, and then he gets thrown off the roof, and Bruce Willis is a ghost, and all, and you know.
I find it hilarious, the setting as well.
It's stupid,
They
isn't
just
it?
threw a dart at a map and then like spun a wheel of natural. There's no oil in Bolivia. Like I don't. they just plucked it out of thin air
Yeah.
and said, third world country, oil. This is yes.
We'll do this one. Yeah, Inception has a good plot because it's got one of the greatest sort of MacGuffins of all time. In that what they're doing doesn't matter, and what they're doing is so completely.
Well, we said this on the Nolan episode. It's a heist movie Nolanified.
Yeah,
That's what he's been doing ever since. He's just been like Nolanifying different genres.
sure. Whereas this
is
this is Michael Bay does Let's Explode and shoot people, and there's a woman.
This is what happens when a studio thinks you can get away with action without substance.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'd argue it does Michael Bay far worse than Michael Bay. No, hear me out on this. Okay. Hear me out. Every Transformers sequel, dog awful. Transformers 1, if you view it as a disaster movie with robots, rather than as a Transformers movie, is actually alright.
Okay. Well, I see where you're coming from, but the problem is I've recently seen clips from Ambulance, and I can't. I'm struggling here. But I know what you mean. There has been a bit of a revisiting, apparently, with Quantum of Solace, because a lot of people's criticism of it was that Bond is remorseless in it, and Bond doesn't have any care or any motive.
I think that's one of the things that really differentiates Daniel Craig's Bond, particularly as the series goes on. You see it a lot in Casino Royale. It's there in Quantum, and especially as his films go on, is what differentiates Daniel Craig's Bond to Sean Connery's Bond or Roger Moore's Bond or whatever, is his relationship to violence. Yeah. So particularly Sean Connery. Sean Connery had this. I mean, this is what made him so amazing in his era. But he was suave and he was cold and he was calculating and he had sort of this ambivalent relationship with violence. Daniel Craig is a Bond who has to like kill a part of himself every time he gets a mission.
Sure.
And he hates it.
Yeah.
He clearly hates it, especially as the series goes on. He's a Bond that aches and ages and dies at the very end.
Yeah.
He's a very human character, as opposed to the other ones where he's just this suave, machine where he can switch from smooth talking upper class people and womanizing and then beating up random henchmen just like that.
Yeah.
Whereas Daniel Craig, you get the impression that he's not struggling. I mean, he's still like the main man, but you know what I mean? Like it takes a mental toll on him every time he does something.
No.
And that's there in Quantum.
I think it is there in Quantum. And actually, thinking about it again, I think that is kind of one of the points that I think Quantum has going for it, in that I don't think there is an element ever that he's sort of enjoying what he's doing. No. I think there is a sort of remorse. And linking back to the Bourne factor, Jason Bourne realises by one of them that so a lot of the things that he's done have been wrong or have not been the right course of action, and so he regrets it. He's one of the few action heroes that shows a lot of remorse in terms of for what he's done, and I think that kind of does actually come across in this, because there's no element ever that Bond is actually sort of relishing in this or enjoying it. And so in that sense, maybe it is the start of his, because there's a coldness to Daniel Craig which I think is not present in the rest of the Bonds, purely because he feels more emotionally tied to everything that he's doing. Yeah. Which we'll get to later on. But I think I'm glad that we're in agreement that Question of Sport is just bottom of the pile.
Apart from the humanizing Bond stuff, which all the other films do, and I'd say do better.
Yes.
It does just generally across the board lack substance.
Yeah. Okay. Right then, number 4.
Number 4 for me is Spectre.
Okay, we're agreed. That's fine. Oh, it's so stupid.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
I think the main issue I have with this film is that it tried to give James Bond a long-lost brother and failed so miserably. This is why I think No Time to Die needs more credit than people give it. Blofeld is one of the daftest conceptions that has ever been come up with. Kim Newman said this, if we're to believe him about his plan and the way it worked with his father's abandonment and all that kind of stuff, which he's supposed to be planning for like 30 years.
Yeah.
We have to believe that he was planning his route to kill Bond when he was like 3. That's when he started, and it never stopped. And for the whole time, he was going, and then there's going to be a door, and there'll be a thing behind the door, and then they'll do shitty things, and because he wanted some attention from his dad, really,
Really badly.
So stupid.
And
First
just
5 minutes,
especially the fact that it came after Skyfall.
yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
we've given James Bond this vague Scottish backstory.
Yeah.
But he's also got like an Austrian half brother.
Someone went, Christoph Waltz is free. Ooh, are we writing a part for him? No. Shit.
Shit.
What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? This.
Oh heavens!
The first 5 minutes is great. The one-shot take
Spectre was
through Day of the Dead.
Sam
Mendes,
Yeah.
first time, yeah. Second time. And, that one-shot thing is something that Sam Mendes then did for the whole film in 1917. So he clearly liked that and built off it.
Yeah.
But then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Really. I was so disappointed with Spectre.
I enjoyed it. I can say that for Spectre when I can't really for Quantum. Like I would rewatch Spectre if it was on.
Interesting.
I'd like.
I think I would
Mostly,
probably
I
rewatch
can't
it if it was
remember
on.
a lot of it is the
That's the problem as well.
Yeah.
It's so forgettable.
It doesn't even. It kind of misses a lot of the traditional
Bond
Bond-esque.
beats. Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, it also wastes Andrew Scott completely.
Yes.
as a
So
villain.
what was he? C.
C, I think his
C.
name was, yeah. There's a great moment, though, and this is quite good, when he's going on a spiel at Ray Fiennes about how, he's victorious and how this government is stupid and they never open their eyes and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then he tries to shoot Ray Fiennes, and Ray Fiennes has taken the bullets out of his gun without him realising. He goes, "Now we know what C really stands for." And everyone in the cinema goes, literally see of like 16-year-olds going, "Is he gonna? Ray Fiennes gonna tell it?" And he goes, "Careless." And we go, "Oh."
Which they know.
They do know. I think they must know.
Everyone knows.
Surely.
Everybody knows.
Well, I feel weirdly more British to just use that word there.
Yeah, to just throw that one out there.
This, to me, in terms of modern filmmaking, this is the over-franchisement of everything in cinema. This is Marvel does Bond film to me. And the reason why... side note, yesterday I found out there are going to be sequels in the offering for Frozen, Zootopia, and Toy Story. There's going to be Toy Story 5.
Toy Story 5.
Toy Story 5.
Who are the toys?
I don't know. Tom Hanks ain't going to do it.
God, yeah.
The Toy Story 5 when 4 isn't enough.
Yeah. Oh, heavens.
Maybe it's going to centre around Sporky or whatever his name was. Forky? Sporky?
I think Sporky.
Sporky.
Who's Sporky gonna have around? What are kids playing with nowadays? It's just gonna be
iPads.
Ghost from Call of Duty.
Yeah.
and Sporky.
Sporky, an iPad, and a fidget spinner team up to...
It sounds like the T for a really horrible joke. But no, I agree with you. It's Bond trying, which I don't understand why they feel the need to do this. Bond is very much its own thing.
Yeah.
It's an established. You can do whatever you want with this character. It's Bond. Which even Quantum, it made its budget back. I mean, you can do whatever you want with this character. People will go and see a Bond film. You don't need to over-franchise it. You don't need to establish it. You don't need to have a Marvel. Everyone thinks they have to do a Marvel these days. Which is one of the reasons Warner Brothers is going under, because it keeps trying to make DC movies. Like, just
failing miserably.
And failing miserably.
Well, there's another thing. Joker 2, that's going to happen. And The Batman 2, or The Batman Chapter 2, whatever it's called, that's also
I'm
happening.
open to a Batman sequel. Joker doesn't need a sequel.
Joker doesn't need a sequel. And for me, I think... I worry because that is where I think... Because with Joker, I thought, okay, Todd Phillips, you've made something actually here that I can respect, because there's quite a lot of this that I quite like.
I don't think Todd Phillips is in charge of whether or not a sequel gets greenlit.
No, but this is the problem, is I think he wanted to. He was a big, pusher of it, because he felt that it actually sort of got his reputation back. because of how much attention Joker got critically. There was an 8-minute standing ovation at Venice, which I always think when these films get 8 and 10 and 12-minute standing ovations.
What do you do
at what point do you go, this is fucking stupid now?
Yeah. At what point, even if you're getting clapped for, at what point are you just like, can we stop? Can we move on?
This is like people singing "Happy Birthday" to me, and it never stops.
An 8-minute happy birthday.
An 8-minute happy birthday. The good thing about Happy Birthday is it finishes out of 20 seconds. You don't then have to go, all right, that's enough, and then, as you say, get out a pistol and just hold it to your head. And
hold it to my head.
I will do this if you don't shut up.
I'm fine with Todd Phillips making a Joker 2 then.
Yeah.
Because, he made Joker 1. If he thinks there's more to go into here, fine, I'll go and see it. I might even enjoy it. But just as long as there actually is something to work with. Because Joker 1 was a brilliant self-contained story. So if there's not more to work off of there, and they're just sort of making it for the sake of making it, that's my whole problem with these franchises.
Yeah.
Is they're making films for the sake of making films because the studio execs just see dollar signs.
Sure.
And that's it.
Yeah. At least with the thing is with the Batman, we got that.
Batman's sort of like Bond. I wouldn't class Batman movies as superhero movies. They're sort of it's a character franchise, not a universe franchise.
No, true. Actually, well, given that there's been so many of them.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck is going to come back in The Flash as Batman.
Oh my God.
There might even be Michael Keaton again.
That's too many Batman.
Yeah, George Clooney sacked it off because he's realised how bad of a decision that was
right.
for him. The nipples. Anyway, Bond.
God.
But this is one of the large problems I had with the Batman because they ruined the ending by teasing another one.
Yeah.
And as far as standalone films go, I know with this, following on from Skyfall and the sections of Quantum, they wanted to continue this kind of arc story, which I think was the right decision. It was the right call. But I think we've never had it before with a Bond. Never. I think he's been married once, I think. I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think that's the only time we've ever had anything like that.
Yes.
Anything, sort of lasting over from the previous film.
Yeah.
But with this, it felt like they were bringing in story beats that they wanted to add to the arc because they wanted the arc to keep going.
Yes.
And I'm really annoyed that they did that. And Daniel Craig nearly left. They nearly didn't get the chance to do No Time to Die because I think midway through production, Daniel Craig was like, this may well be the last one. I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to come back, etc. But I think they may well have changed it so that the ending was left with more open than it was originally planned so that could happen. And I am getting bored of films being trailers for the next one.
Yes.
Like I've been to see 3 hours of a trailer for the next film, which is going to be another 3-hour trailer for the one after that.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum coming out soon. I don't care.
I keep seeing posters for that on a bus.
In it.
I haven't seen a new Marvel film since Endgame. I haven't watched any of the new ones since Endgame. I watched Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because that's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it was actually alright.
Yeah, it was fine. It's good.
But any of the just Marvel films, no interest. No
Well,
interest
yeah.
at all.
I saw Multiverse of Madness, and I've expressed on here before how that was not something I should have done.
It's 2.5 hours. You're never getting back.
Literally never.
Yeah.
Literally never. Oh, and I also saw Morbius, and that has wider implications. Did you see
have
Morbius?
A full No, I've listened to the full episode you did.
I think, yeah.
Detailing your hatred of Morbius.
Listen. Brother lost his shit on the podcast. We know that. But there is a bit at the end of Morbius, which I'm going to tell you because I don't want you to have to watch the film.
I'm not going to watch the film.
Jared Leto he breaks out of prison in the most pathetic way possible. Basically, it's like in Goldmember when Dr. Evil goes, "You're going to start a riot and we're going to walk out the front door." It's pretty much like that. But he gets out, and because of the Doctor Strange spell, which took away Spider-Man with the sky opening and all the people coming down the multiverse opening, Michael Keaton's Vulture returns. And then he has a conversation with Jared Leto, and he's like, "What do you know about Spider-Man?" And so, in Marvel's eyes, next Spider-Man is going to be involving Morbius and Michael
Keaton and Jared Leto try and kill Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I was so depressed because the thing is, I didn't.
Kevin Feige's just
Kevin Feige's just gone.
he's just senile now. Like
Clearly
he had an iron grip on that franchise until Endgame, and
Yeah.
now he's just greenlighting anything. Like,
Absolutely. But Kevin, can I? Yes.
he used to.
Do you not even want to? Yeah, no, fine.
Has he not like destroyed careers because like execs have spoiled stuff?
Yes.
I swear he's done that.
Yes, no, he has. Many times.
That man's a fascist.
The fascist in charge of Marvel. Well,
Not anymore.
not anymore.
They're
But
just making anything.
Yeah.
We just hate franchises, don't we?
yeah, but
We're meant to be talking about Bond.
Yeah, I know, but the thing this is proof actually that Bond's come back to stand on its own, right? Because after Spectre was this disappointing,
Yeah.
it then changed a bit and didn't become what we were worried that it might. It felt like this was the trend it was copying within the wider cinematic world. When I was watching Morbius, there was a moment where Matt Smith went to a little news counter and asked for the Daily Bugle, and I was like, "Oh God, it's a spider adjacent film. This is the Spider-Man world." And I should have known that because of the comics, but by the same token, I was like, "Kill me."
Let a film be its own thing.
Yeah, at the end of Let There Be Carnage,
Yeah.
that's going to be involved with the next Spider-Man. I think.
I'm on the edge of my seat. But no, I agree with you completely. I mean, since the original, I'm going to say the Avengers, not the original Iron Man.
No,
but
sure.
since the Avengers,
Yep.
Marvel has dominated the yearly box office, and it's kind of left all of the other studios, what's the phrase? Not dazed, but blindsided.
Sure.
By just the sheer amount of money they've been raking.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everyone's trying to copy the secret sauce, the secret ingredient that makes Marvel so successful.
11 herbs and spices.
Yeah, and I don't. But what enrages me so much about Bond doing it is they don't have to. But they've decided to go down this route anyway. They could have told a self-contained story. It could have been a secret organization. You didn't need the half brother. We'll just put that in its own little box. But the fact that they're trying to make Daniel Craig's Bond a franchise within a franchise.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous to me.
Yeah. It does seem stupid, doesn't it?
And I think now. Well, I assume No Time to Die is your third.
Well, this is where we're going to get onto it.
Oh.
I know for a fact that I'm wrong. However, I still feel this way.
Oh God. Right.
So, in third place for me is Casino Royale.
You're kidding.
No.
You're kidding.
I'm not. I'm not. Again, I'm wrong. All right. I know that I'm wrong.
What I was gonna say about No Time to Die was it feels like after Spectre, they kind of realized everything we just said. That it's not like the weird chronological structure they're trying to put in place in Daniel Craig's Bond. Like, yes, one film can fit into the next, but the weird whole backstory universe they're trying to build isn't gonna work. It felt like they realized that.
Yeah.
And a big part of the film is to do with Bond's partner Madeline and all of the stuff that goes on with her history, and Blofeld's involved to some degree. But it felt like a really... Now, I enjoyed No Time to Die a lot. Just not more than Casino Royale.
Yeah.
But it's... it felt like a really, really heartwarming return to form, almost. Not for Daniel Craig's Bonds, but for Bond in general.
Of course, yeah. No, I'm with you.
There were so many... It felt like Bond had finally... And this is what Casino Royale launched. I'm sure we'll get into this when we get into the segment on Casino Royale, but it felt like Bond finally broke free of the gritty post-9/11 world Bond... Die Another Day got absolutely destroyed by Bourne Identity in 2002 at the box office. So they're like, right, we need to do a gritty, whole dark, every character is grey kind of Bond.
Yeah.
And No Time to Die, what I really enjoyed about that is it was kind of just let itself go and said like, no, we don't need to be completely goofy the whole time.
Yeah.
But we can kind of harken back to more traditional Bond films. And still tell a good story and still have it be its own thing and just not worry about all the external stuff that's been killing Spectre.
Sure.
And that killed Quantum.
Yeah.
Anyway, Casino Royale.
Okay, well, we'll do Casino Royale first because I think I've probably got more to say about No Time to Die because I have more justifying to do. A side note, mentioning Die Another Day there.
Was it not Die Another Day?
No, it was, but it reminded me of... there's a character in Die Another Day called Mr. Kill.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Which one's Mr. Kill?
The dude with the dreadlocks.
Oh,
And
Die Another Day's the North Korea one,
I
right?
think so.
Yeah. North Korea have a space laser.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. And then, but there's a moment where Pierce Brosnan's Bond is introduced to him, and I think the villain goes, "This is Mr. Kill," and he goes, "Well, that's an end to die for."
I'm not giving you that.
It's not good at all.
I'm not giving them that. I'm not giving you that. Stop laughing at that.
It's so like, I'm gonna take her around the world one more time. Like, it's just I know that Bond is full of like one-liners and
invisible
quips.
car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Die Another Day was absolutely ridiculous.
It was so bad, and I think actually had it been better, we might have had one more Brosnan film because I think he was keen.
Mm-hmm.
But the sort of leader at the driving force at the time was like, no, we need to shift up because we've just been
Annihilated
outdone
by Bourne
Identity, so we need to change up. Okay, Casino Royale. Yeah, I know that this is a better film than No Time to Die, without question. I know it is. I think we're just gonna have to park that for now until we talk about No Time to Die. I'm not bitter. I like Casino Royale a lot. I think it is
very
really
high
good.
strung on this as well.
I just know that anyone who listens to this is going to be like, what are you talking about?
Let's hear what you have to say.
So, first of all, cast is excellent, and Mads Mikkelsen is one of the greatest villaans that Bond has ever produced. Le Chiffre is spot on. He's perfect Bond villain.
Honestly, yes.
This, I think, particularly at the time, character studies were a big trend, and this actually also has a trend of what Paul Higgins claims Batman Begins did for Batman, which was to... I mean, they'd seen the Clooney Batmans and they'd thought, okay, this is bordering, even though this is a fictional world of a superhero, this is bordering on too fantastical.
Yes.
Yeah, this is bordering on too much. And this was in an effort to ground everything a lot more. And I think it does it so well because it grounds it in a game based on deceit and behaviour and wit. And that is the focus of the film. And I think that's fantastic. It's a lot of it shot at eye level. There's not loads of wide shots, great sweeping, which is like, Quantum of Solace was location porn for quite a lot of it.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Up the runtime somehow.
Yes, somehow. Tarantino wanted to direct this.
He wanted to do Casino
Royale. Can you imagine what this would have been like with Quentin Tarantino in charge?
Can you imagine if it done well and we just got like 3 Tarantino Bond films? They wouldn't be remembered as the Daniel Craig films.
No,
they'd be remembered as the Tarantino Bonds.
But they'd also all be 4.5 hours.
I'm down for that, personally.
Hit me again. Give me a vodka martini, but shake it like a Taylor Schiffer and your mum's a whore.
No, but I agree wholeheartedly with what you said about it. I'm just going to keep talking about it with the Tarantino sound effects in the background. But no, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. This was the done thing at the time. Is late 2000s filmmaking was all... Everything's dark, everything's gritty, no one's...
Well, sort of like 7 onwards,
Yes.
95 and then all the way through, yeah.
Yeah, and then like everything has to be grounded, like you said. And honestly, I don't think they could... It was kind of a... Obviously, it's a new Bond, so it's obviously a soft reboot. This is the biggest makeover I think Bond's ever had.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
From any Bond to the other.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, Casino Royale is one of the most successful novels. So it's a poker game, game of wits, game of like intelligence. Everything is so necessary. There's not a lot of violence in this compared to the other Bond films that before and after.
Yeah.
But doing that is the quintessential Bond, if you know what I mean. So it's the whole point of Bond is he's this suave British spy who can be excessively violent when called to.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect arena for Bond as a character to operate in. So if you want to give Bond a makeover, do it here and give your new let your new version of Bond dominate all the Bond tropes in his own way, in the best possible way to do that, because it's Casino Royale and it's the best way for Bond to flourish as a character.
Yeah,
kind of the perfect arena to reboot a Bond.
Definitely, 100%.
And it's Vesper
really well.
Plays an incredibly important role in this movie.
Yeah.
Eva Green, brilliant in it. But like I said about humanizing Bond, and I think that plays a role in grounding the character.
Sure.
This is the impression I get, especially from the later Bond films, especially No Time to Die. Obviously, it's a massive part of that film.
Yeah.
Is that Daniel Craig's Bond kind of regrets becoming a spy?
Yeah.
That's what I get
Yeah,
from
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
Is-
Well, he regrets it in Spectre because he's so fucking bored all the time. But yeah, no,
I
yeah.
digress. That's the impression I get from Daniel Craig's character, because any chance in his whole era of running the franchise that he can escape from being Bond, he goddamn takes
He
it.
takes it, yeah.
So
100%.
and Bond properly grieving over a Bond girl. We hadn't got that since, which Bond was it that got married?
Ooh,
It's a ways back.
let's
But
ask the internet. Which James Bond got married on screen? Bond film on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense.
I'll let you.
On Her Majesty, yeah, it was George Lazenby. We're going to come back to that later on because that has more relevance for No Time to Die.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you take that one, but like having Bond grieve over a Bond girl again, it's about changing up the character and making him more human, while still being able to do all of the Bond stuff, if you know what I mean by the Bond stuff.
Yes, yeah, sure.
And also, which is just a testament to Daniel Craig, really, and his handling of the character. There was a lot of backlash when he was originally cast as Bond, because he was kind of a nobody at the time. So there was a lot of doubt over where he would take the character and how he would kind of transform himself into Bond.
Yeah.
So my conclusion on Casino Royale is, if you're going to reboot a character, if you're going to reboot a franchise, I've never seen it done better than Casino Royale.
I'm completely in agreement with you. I'm not. I think I totally agree with everything you said. It's the same director as GoldenEye, which is the best Brosnan movie, without a doubt. That was the first Bond after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And it plays a lot on that, with a lot of it set in Russia. The torture scene in Casino Royale, in the cabin.
Nail biting.
So good. And Craig is so good in that.
Yeah.
The way he's sort of giggling throughout a lot of it, it's really sort of unsettling.
Yeah.
And there's a great bit also, it is slightly, as you say, in terms of not rebooting, but rebranding a character, or sort of reviving a character in this way. There's a great moment where he goes to the bar after a frustrating round, and he asks for a vodka martini, and we all think he's going to say shaken not stirred, and then the waiter goes shaken not stirred, and he goes, "Do I look like I did give a damn?" And I'm like, yes, good, that is good. It's a quotable film. It's really gritty and well shot, and it's captivating, and I love it, and I think it is really good. And I think as far as a standard goes for Bond films,
it's a pretty high one.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, I'd say that's the standard for this era.
I think you're probably right. I don't really want it to dip below that. Is it?
Yeah.
It's your number one.
I prefer it to Skyfall.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
We'll get into that because
we'll get into that.
We'll get into that when we get to Skyfall.
Yeah. All right. No Time to Die then. I'll try not to just splurge about this, but I'll try and make it coherent.
Good luck.
The reason I have this at number 2, the reason it is where it is, and as I said, no, I'm wrong, because it did what morons thought wasn't possible for Bond, which is give him the proper family storyline. He got a family, and it doesn't make a massive deal of it, but James Bond has a daughter in this film.
Yeah, he did it.
He did it. And he's like, and there's a moment where he goes, "This is my," and then he just sort of mouths family. Like, he doesn't say it, he just sort of mouths it, because he's like, I can't really believe this is happening. And I think that ties into what you were saying earlier about him regretting becoming a spy in this particular instance, when he sort of resurrects his situation with Madeline, and then realizes, it's even stronger because he now has a kid as well. And then he kind of goes, this is, why is this happening now, of all times? Not only did it do that, but it had some dreadful pieces to pick up after Spectre. The thing with Casino Royale is it did a complete rebuild and changed it massively, but I think it had a far greater canvas to go and do that.
It had a blank one.
It had a blank one, exactly. Whereas No Time to Die was trying to polish the turd that was before
Spectre.
it. Yeah. And so in the fact that I left it thinking they saved it.
But the first 10 minutes of Spectre, though.
I know. Yes. No. I know. Yes. Yes.
It's just the rest of
but
it. Anyway,
the rest of it, yes. I left the theatre with my mouth dropped, like my jaw dropped to the floor. I was like,
I mean, I had nitpicks, but
yeah, of course, I had things that I didn't love about it, but I was also like, they did it.
they pulled it off.
They pulled it off. He's dead. He's gone.
Yeah.
Bye bye. I was like, I just didn't think they could do it, and I was thinking, you can't kill James Bond. But then I went, no, of course you can kill James Bond. Of course you can.
Can I just make the clarification that everything above Spectre on my list,
Yeah.
I think is good.
Okay, that's fine. No,
Like,
that's fine.
It's not an even gradient.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
Those two are far below the others.
Yeah. There's a big gap between 3 and 4. No, I'm with you. Well, I'm particularly with you. So, a lot of people's big complaint about this film is Rami Malek. Because he's doing the accent and he's very, very evil and very
I
bad
think
man.
it would have been completely fine if they had a 15-year-older actor.
I understand what you are saying.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Because the whole
However-
time I'm seeing this Bond villain, and I'm just going, that's Rami Malek.
True. No, true.
Like,
That's fair.
He's a good actor and he's good at acting, but
And
in a
he's-
role like this, I'm just like, I'm out of this scene right now. This is
because
Rami
I know
Malek.
it's you,
This
despite the
is-
fact that you're covered in burn marks or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, sure. No, I completely understand that. However, I think there is a layer to this villain which is important to recognise. I think he's an incel. And I think it's important to note that he's an incel because he doesn't matter to us or to Bond. I'm not saying the dude. I'm not saying he sits in his room playing Among Us until the
You could have
early
asked me
hours
a
of the morning.
1,000 times in a row, and I would not have guessed what you were about to fucking say there.
Listen, I think it's important. It's the same as Joker. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is an incel.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Rami Malek, whatever his name is, Philippe Levasseur.
I don't know I have no idea what any of the characters
No one knows.
in this
French
goddamn
man.
franchise are called. I
They're all-
see the movie, I'm like, that guy was
That
good
guy
in
that was in
this.
it, yeah.
Like, Bond's that
What was
kind of
Dave
franchise
Bautista's
to me.
name in Quantum of Solace? What was Dave Bautista's name?
Was he
In-
not Spectre?
Sorry, Spectre, sorry.
Well, that tells you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He was the big guy.
Big guy.
Yeah, like.
But when is Dave
side
Bautista
note,
not
I'm
the
sorry,
big
we're
guy?
doing another tangent
Oh,
because
God.
this gets me.
Yeah.
You know when any sort of action film and the main hero guy goes in and he's in like the villain's lair or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's punching henchmen left and right and he's doing cool kicks and throwing people off railings. And then the writers panic and they're like, oh my god, like the plot's getting a bit quick here. Let's make him fight a big guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And the big guy's gonna have him rolling around. And, he's gonna punch the big guy, and the big guy's not gonna move. And that's Dave Bautista.
Are you
and
saying that
Spectre.
happened 15 minutes into Blade Runner 2049? Ryan Gosling started punching.
No. Blade Runner 2049. Yeah, I mean, I said this last time.
Yeah.
It's the slowest goddamn movie on planet Earth.
Still good.
But
No,
but
I
it
totally
happens
know
in,
what you
like,
mean. It's done
in,
it
like,
so many
the
times
original
before.
Thor.
Yes, yeah.
Like that was the one that really pissed me off because it's just a big guy. There's nothing special about this particular henchman. He's the big guy. I'm
One
doing
of
the thing with my
Thanos'
fingers there.
gang, his five little henchmen, the sort of the big leader henchmen.
Yeah.
One of them's bigger than him,
Yeah,
but is so much less of a threat.
exactly.
Like in, I think it's The Spy Who Loved Me. Roger Moore fights Jaws, the guy with the metal teeth, who's massive.
Jaws I can forgive because there's a gimmick there.
But there's a gimmick there,
There's
and he actually
something
plays a
unique
part to the story.
It's
Sure.
not just the big guy for me, and it irritates me so much is because a writer it's just so lazy from whoever's writing this particular action sequence. It's the laziness of it that gets me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't think of a reason why the hero can't just do exactly what he wants to do because he's cutting through these guys like butter.
Yeah.
Butter, sorry. So he's gonna fight a big guy.
Yeah.
And that gets to me.
Can I just say, you're coming straight out of the writer's room of Austin Powers right now. It's perfect. To go, who was the big fat bastards? Great. There's a great moment in Goldmember when Michael Caine, who's Austin Powers' dad, in a great bit of casting, he walks in, he punches one henchman in the neck with a judo chop, he hits another one in the stomach, and the other one sort of shakily walks towards him with a gun. He goes, "Do you know how many anonymous henchmen I've killed in my lifetime? Look at you. You don't even have a name badge. Why don't you just fall on the floor? Go on." And he just lies on the ground. And I'm like, yeah. But to be honest, that is one step away from what a lot of writers have done
Yeah.
in the past with that kind of shit.
And Bond is as guilty of this as every other fucking franchise out there.
100%, yeah.
And I hate it.
Yeah. Even in reverse, big Scottish dude in Skyfall, he poses way more of a problem than anyone thinks.
Yeah, and he's just a fucking gaming.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He's just a gaming.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the point being, incels, right? Rami Malek doesn't matter to Bond or to us, and that's important, right? Because he is simply a device for the events that need to happen to break up Bond's family, right? And in that, he has produced, and this is another huge MacGuffin, he has produced a series of nanobots which invade the human body and don't ever leave, right?
Another one of those franchise catchphrases. You know, it's quantum, it's nanobots. Anyway.
Zoom in and enhance. Pause. Zoom in. Go closer.
But yeah, Rami Malek he's less of a villain as much as he is an antagonist.
Yes.
If you know what I mean by
Yes.
that.
No, I do. 100%.
A villain is a character. He's got presence.
Yeah.
He's got things to him. He's explained. So in that sense, Rami Malek's character is not a villain.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of being an antagonist, in the way that he affects the plot,
Yeah.
and the way that he affects our protagonist in opposition. He's purely a force of opposition.
He is the anti-driving force of the
Yes.
film. Yes, 100%.
So in terms of being an antagonist, as in playing a role in the plot,
Yeah,
it works fine.
sure.
It works fine.
No, I agree.
I don't like the casting.
That's
personally,
fine.
but
That's
just
fine.
preference.
No, but that is also fine. But it reminds me of, you know, the end of The Dark Knight when Batman hangs up the Joker, and we think this is done now. We're over this, and then Joker goes,
I've got an ace.
but also I've got an ace, and
Mine's Harvey.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and Batman literally goes, oh, that's what it like. He's so like, you've always got something more to say, and he just walks away from it. He's like, I'm done with you. I'm done with you. Right? That is what Bond's relationship feels like with Rami Malek to me. It's like, God, you just keep talking. I don't care about this anymore. I'm over this. I'm just dealing with you because I need to.
Yeah. And every time I think I'm done with you,
Yes.
you pull another MacGuffin out,
Exactly.
and cripple me.
Yeah.
And I have to just deal with it. And this goes back to my point about, because this is the last Bond film.
Yeah.
You know how I said he's a Bond that aches and ages and dies. This is the one that he has aged, and he's about to die.
He's about to die.
And he's tired.
Yeah.
He's just tired and I like that. Maybe it's, I mean, that's kind of just a kind of trope that I like, is like the tired main hero. You know, like The Last of Us, I like that show a lot for that reason. Anything like that. He's done enough. And Rami Malek just keeps throwing things at him, and he was so close to having his family and getting out. Like I said, every time he gets a chance to get out, he fucking takes it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When he kills Rami Malek, it's like that. It's so quick. Like, they have a scuffle, but there's no great speech when he's holding a gun at his face. He just shoots him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done with this.
I've been through like 10 of you.
Yeah. You mean
And you're the
nothing
one
to
that
me. Yeah.
fucking
Why don't you
got-
just fall on the floor?
The only thing to do with you is you're the one that gets me. Like, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, sure. He's just trying to do that. We're not so different, you and I. And he's like, you shut up. I don't care. We've also got Ana de Armas, who's great fun. Steel Cena.
She's still... can I speak? Scene Stealer.
Yes. What did I say?
When she's in
Steen Sealer.
You said Steve Sealer. And I
What
said
you
it
said.
as well. Yeah. Only problem with Ana de Armas, she's not in enough of the film.
No, you're right. She's
Really,
yeah.
I mean, she's great.
Yeah.
So...
I just love how she's so she's sort of like cheery and innocent free spirit. She's like, I'm so excited, I've done 2 weeks training, and then she's just better than him.
Yeah.
She's just better than him. This was originally going to be No Time to Die, a Danny Boyle film. We were going to get a Danny Boyle Bond, but after falling out over creative differences in some of the direction it went and some of the script, his script editor said, I don't want to do it if they can't do this, and Danny Boyle said, well, I don't want to do it if I don't have my script editor. So that they went. And we got Kerry Fukunaga. Yeah, respect, right? So Kerry Fukunaga came in, and actually, I think he did very well with everything that he had. It's the perfect way for Daniel Craig to go. It's a perfect footnote for him. It cements him, without a doubt, as the best Bond. Obviously, as I said...
Even if he's not the best in your ranking, he's this generation's Bond.
Oh, 100%.
Either
And
way.
for a long time as well. Nearly nigh on 20 years playing the same character.
Yeah, I mean, he deserved a send-off.
Yeah.
In a way that no other Bond's really got.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, no other Bond ever. There has never been a Bond film where they've gone into it knowing that's his last film. this is the first time we've known this is the last film of this James Bond. Even
And also,
when...
have you seen Daniel Craig since? Like, not even just in the Knives Out stuff.
Oh, he's having
He's
so much fun.
happy.
Yeah.
He's so happy
Yeah.
to not have to play this sexually repressed Brit that he can just go out and do whatever.
I can't figure it out. It don't make sense.
Compels me though.
The Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom.
But he's finally like having fun.
Yeah, he's doing what he wants to,
Yeah.
which is always nice to see.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's particularly anything to do with No Time to Die, but
I don't think so.
he got a good send.
But he got a good send off, and I think he needed it.
Yeah.
But he's he's definitely done with it now, which we'll talk about later actually when we finish the ranking. This film got a weight it didn't ask for, because they kept releasing posters for this film with the date on it as to when it was going to come out, but it was during COVID, so that was wrong about 4 times. People go, stop putting the date on the posters, just let it come out when it comes out, and we can have it in cinemas. And so it was one of the early big hitters, like this and Tenet were some of the big hitters back in cinemas, right?
Yeah.
Which is a title it never asked for, and also it meant that people's expectations ruined it because they got bored of waiting for it. There was so much time to die that they just got sick of it, right?
You did not think of that yourself.
No, I didn't. It's not mine. It's not mine. It's not mine. All right. It's not mine. It's not mine. Okay. I've been on Twitter. This actually, in terms of cinema, and what it did for modern cinema, what it reflects is 2 things. The second thing, which is not as big as the first thing, but the second thing, as well as footnoting, end of a sequence like Endgame or something like that, it's a genre hopper, because the opening sequence with Rami Malek in the snow is a slasher horror film. That is unequivocally what it is. If you show the first sequence in the snow, in the log cabin to someone who doesn't know what the film is...
When I saw that at the start of the film, I was like... That hyped me up more than any of the trailers.
Yeah, sure.
Because I would like... It's kind of a... I don't want to say perfect, but it's a really good sequence.
It's a
just
great
on its
sequence.
own.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And actually it's not only is it a good sequence, but it then works well later on in terms of dealing with the Madeline Swan story.
Yeah.
Why they have a connection. It makes sense from there on. So that's one thing that it does. But the second thing, this is about callback or honouring roots or honouring originals.
Yeah.
Because there is so much on Her Majesty's Secret Service with this, which is why when we looked up before, that's the one he gets married in.
Okay.
That's the time, because musically, this has a lot to do with On Her Majesty's Secret Service. In terms of family, this has a lot to do with On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's about honouring the past, but with a new lens that we were speaking about, particularly with Casino Royale, kind of making a new thing. But this is fundamentally about...
No Time to Die, maybe just because not enough time has passed since it came out. Like, I don't know where it lies in kind of the broader... It seems to be the first Craig film. So, right, just more broadly, every Bond film mirrors the times it's made in. Since Sean Connery. Goofy 60s, whatever the hell they were doing in the 70s, so on and so forth.
Drugs.
And then you get, they kept doing goofy stuff in the 90s when everyone was just going crazy because the world was all sunshine and rainbows. 9/11 happens, Born Identity happens, you get Casino Royale. No Time to Die for me is the first Bond film to really, again, maybe just because I don't know where it lies yet, to really stand on its own in terms of, and maybe that's because where it draws its influence is the other Bond films, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If every Bond film is a collage of the times it's made in, if you're a collage of the Bond films,
you are Bond
that's
films.
it. You're the closest thing to a unique Bond we've ever got.
Yeah. How much Bond do you want? Yes.
How many times did I say it in that sentence?
No, you're right. In terms of this does pull together quite a lot of it, and it does some new stuff as well. Yeah. I think actually a lot of people were quite pissed off that Lashana Lynch had the 007 title, and actually I think it was quite delicately handled in the way she went. Actually, this is a big mission. I'll give it back to him. Yeah, I'm fine. It's something else. It was going to be a rivalry, and it is a little bit for the film, and then they go, actually, no, it's not. We're on the same side here.
It also just completely makes sense in the context of the film.
Oh, completely. They think Bond's out of action.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Like,
duh.
Is this not what's happened every time there's been a new Bond?
Exactly. There is one bit of it which I think is completely ridiculous, and it echoes on from Spectre. The introduction of Christoph Waltz in No Time to Die is one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen. As he sits half smiling, slumped in a chair on the shit roller coaster that's ever been made. It moves at half a mile an hour down a corridor. What seems like forever. It just takes forever. And he finally gets to the front and goes, "Hello, James." And I'm like, did we really need the last 15 minutes of you coming down on a slide? Look, that...
It just cuts to Daniel Craig exhausted.
Exactly. Ah. But then, again, No Time to Die, it dealt with the ridiculousness of Blofeld.
Yeah.
At least, it gave him
It
some more substance.
It acknowledged him.
It acknowledged him. It had his...
because what they did was
mistaken arc with the scene with Ana de Armas in it,
Yeah.
where they thought he was going to be the victor of that scene and then he wasn't, and then had the moment where Bond kills him.
Yeah.
So they wrapped it up, and actually they made it not matter. Because his plan didn't
I think
work.
is the best way to handle that, because you say what we've done is we've made a more interconnected Bond series of films than we've done before. We did it wrong. So let's just kind of wrap up the Blofeld stuff, pay it, some lip service in terms of how it affects this plot.
Yeah.
And move on. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. Also,
big fan of how they handled that.
Yeah. The Billie Eilish theme motif throughout it, and I think that was underappreciated.
I saw a lot of people not like the Billie Eilish.
Yeah,
No Time
I
to
think.
Die theme.
Well, I think it's because it was very much vocally in her style, which isn't everyone's cup of tea. But actually, I think it does.
Yeah,
it works really well for the film.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
It's just a Bond thing. I don't know what makes something Bond. I really don't. I probably
It's
should.
the same 3 chords that they do in every single one. But yes, no, you're right. Anyway, that's why I think No Time to Die is second in my list. I know it's not better than Casino Royale. I know it isn't. But I just think it had so much to do, and it got so much of it right, that I'm impressed by it a lot.
Casino Royale. This might be a contrived metaphor, but Casino Royale ticked all the boxes.
Yeah.
But it had far less to tick than No Time to Die.
Okay, yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
No Time to Die missed in a few
some of
places,
them, yeah.
but had a lot more to do
Sure.
than Casino Royale did.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But yeah, by the same token, Casino Royale is a more polished and better film. So, numero uno, you've already said it's Casino Royale. So I'm going to let you explain here.
Caveat.
Okay.
I've thought about it at all since I said that, and they are interchangeable for me.
Okay.
They really are. Casino Royale, because of what we said earlier about franchises, that massive tangent we took about how we both hate what's happening with franchises.
10 minutes.
the bulk of the podcast. It's Casino Royale for me is I really like when a film tells its own story and tells it well, and that's the film.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be so much to ask for, but it seems to be these days. And Casino Royale just it's a perfectly self-contained story. Everything in the plot makes perfect sense, and it's Mads Mikkelsen is probably the best Bond villain
I think so.
maybe ever, as Le Chiffre. And especially, actually, what makes him shine is when he loses.
Yeah.
His performance when he loses is what really is the cherry on top for me, because anyone can be cold and calculating and in control of a situation, but the whole point about a control freak character is that when they lose that control, they collapse.
Yeah. Sure.
And a lot of actors miss that when they play those kinds of characters. Vesper Lynd as kind of this beacon that Bond strives towards and just gets betrayed again and again and again, which gets called back to him in No Time to Die. So when they're in the car chase in Sicily.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, I thought I was out, and I cannot believe this is goddamn happened again. I am tired. But Vesper Lynd is kind of the original
version of that.
Yeah. Call it what you will. There's far too many Bond films that get by on being Bond films.
Yeah.
Casino Royale is one of the depressingly few that's a good film on its own.
Yeah.
And I love it for that. However, whatever you're about to say about Skyfall, I will agree with you wholeheartely. It's great.
Okay. That's fine. That is fine. And I don't think anyone's going to be mad at you for having either at number one, because it's still people can't decide, and I think it's because they probably are.
If we're being serious,
on a level uphill.
No Time to Die straddles the border, but the Casino Royale and Skyfall are the only two.
Yes,
they're good ones.
Yes, no, yes, no, you're right. You are right. As far as Skyfall goes, to me, this is The Dark Knight, but Bond. That's what this is, in the sense of pulling it apart, and it's themes, I think it's The Dark Knight, and particularly in the way that it's that Sam Mendes slightly Nolan-y fashion of directing of filmmaking.
Yeah.
I can't find much fault with Skyfall, and I don't think many people can, and I don't think you probably could either.
No.
Scotland looks very scenic. Scotland looks lovely in it, doesn't it?
Love
It's
a
a
bit
bit foggy.
Love a bit of Glencoe.
It kept the dialed down nature of Casino Royale. It kept the grounded ingredient of it, and I think the perfect encapsulation for it, but with change, is the meeting with Q in the art gallery.
Yes.
When Bond, when Daniel Craig and Ben Whishaw first meet, and there's a great interaction between the two of them, and it's all very hush because they're in a place where they have to be quiet.
Yeah.
And they're looking at a painting, which is a grand old warship being ignominiously hauled away for scrap, which is what Ben Whishaw says.
Which is what Bond is.
Yeah, and that's exactly what
In
Bond
this
is.
film, yeah.
And he's looking at it, and Q says that, and says the inevitability of time, don't you think? It's very sad. What do you see? And then Bond goes, bloody big ship. Excuse me. And it's like he doesn't want to see himself as this warship, you know? It's so good. And at the end of that, Bond gets given a gun and a radio, and he goes, not exactly Christmas, is it? And Q says, were you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really go in for that anymore. And I'm like, yes, perfect. That's what this film is doing. This has gone back to the bare essentials of
bare
Bond.
minimum.
Yes, this has gone back to the bare of not only the bare of Bond films, but the bare of Bond himself. This is going right to his
the bare
core.
of spy films. Forget the
absolutely.
Bond tag
Yeah.
that we're just putting on everything. Because we're making it sound as if it's a genre all its own.
Sure, yeah. They are spy films.
They are spy films.
Yeah, and actually, if you did a list of top 5 spy films, there wouldn't be that many Bonds in
I
it.
wouldn't put a lot. No.
You'd have like
Really, just the two we're sure on
just
ourselves.
the two we're on about, yeah. And then like Tinker Tailor,
Born Identity.
Born Identity, maybe. I'd put Mission Impossible.
I
in
put
there.
Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh really?
I really liked that.
Oh
film.
no, that is good actually.
But we're not here to talk
No,
about
we're
it.
not.
We've done enough.
Yeah, the exploding pen's a reference back to GoldenEye, because that was one thing about No Time to Die. The EMP watch,
Yes.
which he uses to blow up the dude's eye. That was one
First
of those.
all, why is there a dude with a
Why is there a
eye?
dude with a mechanical eye? You know, I know he lost it, but like glass, you know, glass exists. Anyway, it was one of those incidences where he goes to Q and Q goes, "Here's this thing. We're not sure how you're going to need it, but at some point you might need it." And it was like, oh, I'm so glad I've got an EMP watch right now because I'm in a headlock so I can blow up this dude's face. Like, you know what I mean? He just wouldn't have. There was no way they would have gone. Now, James, at some point on this mission, you're going to need to add exploding pen.
Aside from Q being prescient, I think there's no way. There's no way that he would think, oh, do you know what Bond would love at this moment in time? EMP watch.
EMP watch. At least in No Time to Die, he uses it more than once. So
Yeah.
it serves its purpose in another way, which is fine. It's not just that stupid bit.
Stupid goddamn robot eye.
Although with that sequence where they're going up the stairs is another one take thing. It's not Sam Mendes, but it's sort of carried over. That's not a good one take sequence going up the stairs. Anyway, there's a maternal theme for
Yes.
Skyfall in the
Yes.
sense that the main characters are Bond, M,
and Silver.
and Silver. They are the characters that we give a toss about in this film.
They're the ones who we care about.
Yeah. And
Everyone else can be cool and have their own, cute one-liners or whatever. These are the people we care about in this film. Interesting thing about Silver is I don't know how to feel. Either way, it helps the film a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it personally.
Okay.
Is playing into the whole camp villain thing.
Sure.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
I can't decide.
It divides a lot of people.
Yeah, I can't decide. Like, I know for a fact that it, like, I'm not going to say objectively, it's film criticism, but definitely helps the film out in terms of contrasting its hero and its villain.
Sure.
Because Silva, unlike, what's his face is in No Time to Die.
Oh,
Rami Malek. Unlike Rami Malek.
Do you know
Rami
what?
Malek.
What is this bastard's name?
You know what? It doesn't. It
Oh,
serves
of
our
course, Lucifer, but it's Lucifer.
point. Oh God, piss off.
Okay.
My
I'm
point
starting
is
to
that
agree with
Silva,
you.
unlike Lucifer,
Yeah.
is a villain and an antagonist. He's not just an antagonist. He's a
Sure.
character unto himself.
Yeah.
And the driving one of the film. In terms of plot impact.
Oh, when they're on the island.
Yeah.
With the so good with the whiskey on the head. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Like he is, out of all the Bond villains apart from Schiefer, the one that brings by far the most to the table in terms of what he's doing for the plot, what he's doing to impact James Bond personally. Which I thought was great, actually, just to get a villain that is kind of a mirror image of Bond. Again, playing off of that maternal theme.
Yeah.
In terms of the relationship to M.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's kind of the failed James Bond, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yeah.
James Bond, if everything went wrong, which I just thought was a great contrast to have.
Well, that's interesting because this is the film where at the beginning of it is everything goes wrong for Bond. He breaks in the first moments of this film. He gets shot and then he falls off a bridge. Let's not talk about how he's alive. But
It's fine.
it's fine.
Don't think
Whatever. But you know, Bond is a Bond.
Bond.
Christ. Bond is a broken character. Take a shot every time we say
We should
Bond.
have had a Bond.
Yeah, he's a broken character in this. So the film then also becomes about rehabilitation and starting again, which then makes sense when you go to Skyfall.
Yeah.
And you've started again. This is where it began. This is where you grew up.
come from.
And it's also about making do with what you have, what you can. You need to use what you actually got.
You don't have any gizmos,
exactly,
any gadgets.
That's why the stripped back nature of it again fits perfectly.
If you play the game, whatever, the spy game, the character game, the hero villain, if you play whatever game you're playing, Silva is better at this than you are.
Yeah.
So if you can adapt better than he can, if you can use, your plucky British grit, because there's so many shots of him standing on top of on top of vague government departments with Union Jacks, flying in the background. If you can use whatever grit you have and overcome Silva by not playing according to his rules,
sure,
that's obviously how you win against a character like
yeah.
But another thing I really love about this film is it's personal. It's really personal in terms of character interactions. Bond is trying to prove himself to M, and Silva's trying to prove himself to M, but the only way he can think of to do that is to kill her.
Yeah.
Because he thinks himself betrayed.
And that whole last sequence as well, it looks so good. The across the lake and into the church with the burning house in the background. It's so good. The tube chase is brilliant.
Just a little tidbit. You know the gamey.
Yes.
Who is an incredible master of combat in this film. You know who that was meant to be?
No.
That was meant to be Connery.
Actually, I had heard that.
That was meant to... When they originally envisioned that character, they wanted Connery to do it. That's why he has the Welcome to Scotland throwaway line. Welcome to Scotland.
Welcome to Scotland.
I consider myself a Scotsman.
But it's Albert Finney, isn't it, that ended up playing the Scotsman? Yeah.
That was meant to be...
That was meant to be
Connery.
Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Huh.
Just tidbit for you.
I think... Well, actually, that's important because we'll come back to that later. But... yes, no, this did what No Time to Die had to alter itself for. They had to draft in Phoebe Waller-Bridge to make character interactions more believable and fit the story better. That's what she was brought in for. She's very modest about it. She said, I just came in for a little script touch-up. Actually, a lot of the reasons the characters...
a big part of the film.
Enormous part of the film, but that's just because, she's great. But in this, it didn't need anyone to help it. It just did it. And it was just like, here we go. These are the
Everyone that's in Skyfall is there for a reason. It's not bloated. Unlike a lot of, forget Bond films, just films. Who wrote Skyfall? Who directed, sorry?
I think it's Sam Mendes.
Sam Mendes as well. Yeah. But I feel like Sam Mendes, in a lot, that really helps what I'm going to say actually, because in a lot of his other films, I think he was raised on the practice of cutting scripts in half.
Right, yeah.
Because he has this tremendous capacity to make every character interaction count, and thereby every character count. And I really appreciate that in a film like Skyfall. It's efficient. And I'm not saying that's the goal of filmmaking, but if you can make one line or one moment or one scene do 4 things at once, it's going to be a much better film.
Yeah, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Have you seen Empire of Light, by the way?
I haven't yet.
You should.
Yeah?
It's very good.
Well, I'll give it a watch.
Very good. Maybe do a little cry. The DB5. That's what I love. So there's little classic bits, and then it just opens again. And there's just a DB5, and I'm like, okay, I'm home. Yeah, this is Bond. This is the stuff. And I do every time I read. If I'm ever caught myself reading the back of a packet or whatever in terms of what's in this food, I do have to stop myself going hydrogen cyanide and pulling my teeth out. It's so good. It's so good. I don't actually have that much to say about it.
To be honest, no. It
just nails it.
This is just kind of... I don't know how to say a film's good.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
I can pick apart a terrible movie to the end of time.
Exactly.
But when there's a film like this that's just... It's not it's not game changing.
No.
Didn't change cinema.
No,
But
because
it's
The Dark
just-
Knight had done it 3 years before.
Exactly. But it's just a good movie.
Yeah.
And the sequence in, is it Hong Kong they were in?
Yes.
Was it amazing?
Yeah.
It was just gorgeous.
So good. It's so good.
And it's just a great film. I have very little to say on it, basically, because I'm so used to nitpicking these films.
Well, that's what people always say, that film critics steal a living because slating a film is easier than being positive about a film.
Yeah.
I think they're probably right.
Yeah.
But I think that makes it all the more impressive when a film is well reviewed, because it means that people actually found a way to express that they liked it, which is good. So let's go over the
franchise
ranking
as a whole.
Franchise as well. Well, we'll come on to that.
With
Okay.
ranking.
Let's just solidify the ranking again. So at 5, we've got Question of Sport.
Quantum of Solace.
Yes. I refuse. 4, Spectre.
Spectre.
3, you have
I had No Time to Die.
Okay, I've got Casino Royale.
You bastard.
I'm sorry. 2 for you.
Either or.
Either or. Okay.
So 1 and 2,
1 and
Casino
2
Royale,
interchangeable.
Skyfall.
Okay, 2 for me, No Time to Die, and 1 Skyfall. And again, I'm wrong. Please don't and come at me. The last question I was going to ask.
Ranking.
You what?
I'm pretty happy with that list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel pretty solid on it.
Well, I think it does sort of reinforce the fact that people said the Craig Bond films weren't good, bad, all right. Which I think, is kind of the general consensus, in that Casino Royale, very good. Question of Sport, very bad. Skyfall, amazing. Spectre, oh no. And then
No Time to Die. Just
thank you.
Like,
That'll do me.
Yeah,
nice. Very few people left unsatisfied, I think.
Yeah,
And
my
if they did, they're
reaction
an
to
idiot.
No Time to Die was just sort of nice.
Nice, good.
Nice.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, good, rather than just Bond. Bond. So
just say it 5 more times.
Bond.
We need to get into the quadruple digits for the amount of times
I think if I don't tag this episode, if one of the tags in this episode isn't Bond, I think I've done something very wrong.
But for the franchise
as a whole, what next do you think will happen for Bond?
Well, I think there will be a 5-year hiatus.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
At the very least. Whoever happens to be in charge of handling the franchise, whatever group of people happen to be in charge of handling it, will tear themselves in two over whether or not to make the next Bond a woman. And I think there will be a large group of people online who really don't want that to happen, and a large group of people online who really do want that to happen. And then about 1,000 million times more people in the real world who don't care. But it's going to be a real big issue when it happens. Because I don't care at all.
Yeah.
Yes, a big part of his character is womanizing, but does anyone really want to see that on screen?
Yeah, no. Well, that's one of the things they started to set to rights in No Time to Die, and one of the things Phoebe Waller-Bridge was quite good at. There's a moment where Anna de Armas says something like, "You might want to change your clothes or whatever," and Bond's like, "Maybe we should get to know each other a little bit better, or we don't know each other very well or whatever." And then she goes, "Oh no, it's fine. Don't worry, I'm all right." And it's just like that. She just completely disarms him because she's like, "No, I'm not here for that." And he goes, "All right, okay." And then he finds out that he has a kid and decides to devote himself to one woman. We don't know how long that would last, but they have decidedly moved away slightly.
Slightly moved away.
Give me a minute. From the literally 60 plus years of womanizing that the whole series has done. So I think in that sense, I'm kind of with you. I think
there will be a lot of people on both sides who think it's a way bigger thing than it is.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right, and that it'll be overemphasized as a problem. However,
I have heard murmurs of Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
That's a big name that's been put out.
Thrown around right now.
Yeah. I think it will be a bloke, and I think the way they get around it, because it says James Bond will return at the end of No Time to Die. I think James Bond is a code name. I think it's another 007. I think it's so that people don't know.
Is that not always how we were doing it?
Well,
did anyone really believe that Sean Connery was playing the exact same character?
No, but there's only been one reference ever, I think, to any previous incarnation in which I think it was Sean Connery, I might be wrong, says a line like, "Well, this didn't happen to the last guy," or something like that.
Something like that.
And actually in GoldenEye, we meet 006.
If that happens, that would make Casino Royale much more significant.
Yes, it would.
Because it would mean, okay, like, we are handling this entire franchise differently from now on.
Yeah.
Which I'm honestly pro. Yeah, I'd say I'm in favour of.
Where do you think it goes? Because I would have put money on, and I now know that I'm wrong, but when this film came out, we were also in the territory of Spider-Man No Way Home and Into the Spider-Verse and all the Batmans. And I would have put money on the next Bond film involving multiple Bonds. I thought that's where it was going to go. However, the success, weirdly, of Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think has put that to rest, because I think people can see now that's how you do that kind of a film. That's where we're going to leave it, and I think that won't be the case when the next Bond comes around.
Just going back to what we said earlier, with a lot of passion,
Yeah.
about franchises in general,
Sure.
and kind of the multiversal trend that we've all been going down. There's this cognitive bias that people have, which is like the current trend will only accelerate and continue. People thought it would happen with big tech. Meta kind of proves that's not the case.
Yeah.
People thought it would happen with the multiversal stuff, the slowdown of Marvel in Phase 4, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think is going to be the last good multiverse film.
Yes.
At least the last good one on purpose. So I really don't know where cinema's headed right now, because there's nothing's come out, for me anyway, in I want to say the last 10 years. Nothing's come out that's changed the game.
Inception's the last thing that changed the game.
And it's only in an environment for blockbusters, anyway, I'm saying. Because that's the kind of film we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's only an environment like this, and we're only getting to the point where it's starting to get stagnant. I think blockbusters will stay stagnant, and there'll be the odd good one that comes out when there's the right amount of money with the right people on it.
Sure.
That comes out. But I think blockbusters will kind of stay in a rut for the next 2 or 3 years before something comes out that really changes the game.
Right.
And from then it'll kind of be that spark that makes everyone else do their own thing, and we'll get another 10 years of great films. But right now, I don't have a lot of optimism for blockbusters just as a whole. And they'll keep making money, and that's fine. I'm certainly going to enjoy them.
Sure.
But in terms of being a blockbuster that can
Be a game changer.
that can be a game changer and carry a punch,
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of potential for that right now. With the way that modern studios operate and the way that films tend to be made these days.
I think you're probably right. And I don't hold out much hope
However, I think
either.
in 15 years,
I think we'll be in a much better place.
I think we'll be in a much better place, and I think we'll be able to gauge what era we're heading into by the next Bond that comes out. Because as we've established pretty thoroughly, I think here, James Bond is more than any other a chameleon franchise.
Yes. Yeah.
It has this great capacity to mimic and blend in and be a collage, like I said, of whatever's going on around it at the time. So let's say Aaron Taylor-Johnson gets the gig. Let's say it's a well put together Bond film, nothing more, nothing less. If we did this episode in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, we'd be using that film to talk about the era of films we're going into now. So I guess we'll just see what happens. I really have no guesses here.
I wish Inception had changed it more. I wish there were more blockbusters that did what Inception did, which was prove that you don't have to dumb things down to make a blockbuster.
Yes.
People will keep up and be interested.
If only you would have faith in your audience.
Exactly. Christ. The end of Joker. And it goes, oh, you're, no, it's not even that. It's like when he goes, oh, you're Arthur from down the hall, right? And that moment, everyone in the cinema goes, oh, he wasn't actually... That wasn't actually his girlfriend. He was imagining that whole relationship.
Yeah.
And then it goes, do you remember this bit? Boom, 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 boom. And it's like, flashback. I'm like, I get it. No, I get it. All right. It's going, for those at the back, he wasn't with him. It wasn't real. Got you. Lose, stupid. Next question. The last question. Second last question. Who would you like to have the gig?
Richard Armitage.
Wow.
Is my current pick.
That's interesting.
Richard Armitage? Have I just got the completely wrong name? Richard... Bodyguard man.
Richard Madden.
Richard Madden? Why did I say Richard Armitage?
I don't know.
Not Richard Armitage. Not the man from The Hobbit. Richard Madden.
Richard Armitage isn't not a bad actor.
He's getting on though.
He is 51, so maybe not.
No. I meant Richard Madden.
Richard Madden
I very
isn't
much
a bad shout at all. How old's Richard Madden now? He is 36. So
Won't be a 5-film run if he gets it.
no, but I don't know if. Well, the thing is, no one knows where it's going.
Don't think it needs to be.
I don't think it needs to be either. I have a note on my phone when I was
I
really
heard A lot
bored.
of people wanting Idris Elba for the role.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
He's too old.
He's too old. I also just.
Also, just annoying how
I also
how
just don't
often
think he's
he
a
would-
very good actor. Like,
Really?
is that bad?
No, it's not bad.
Like, I saw Luther, which is apparently
Some of his best work.
some of his best
It's
work.
quite two-dimensional at times.
Yeah.
The Luther character. Okay. I think my list is relatively unimaginative in that it has Callum Turner. Him. I'm showing Michael a picture of him now. He
looks like a mix of Austin Butler and Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, he does actually. Tramps. He was in All the Fantastic Beasts.
Okay, you're gonna have to lay this one out for me
Green
because
Room.
I don't know who we're
Okay,
talking about.
he is the most recent thing I saw him in, apart from Secret of Dumbledore, was The Capture,
Okay.
and he played a fugitive in that, and it was quite Bond-esque what he did, in terms of. It felt a bit Skyfall in that he was laying a low profile, but he had this sort of unwavering presence and power to him that wasn't overstated, but we were always reminded that it was there. And I think in my head that's kind of one of the features of Bond, in that he's not always in control, but he's always got the capacity to act somehow. I also think Riz Ahmed might not be a terrible shout. I like a lot of what he does, and I think
I like a lot of what Riz Ahmed does, and I think he can bring a lot of physical energy to the character.
Yeah,
I don't know if he can command that presence on screen that you need, though.
sure. Well, he hasn't really had that big sort of stoic role yet, has he?
No.
It's been a lot of
Or at least I've not seen it.
intriguing characters. Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of names.
In, though, he's been...
The name that I had floated around for a long time, but now thinking about it, particularly with what you said about the hiatus, is Tom Ellis.
Okay.
I think now it may well have missed the boat, but to me, I think he kind of has all the qualities. And you know, you're gonna need to see him in something that isn't Miranda to gauge that. But like, you know, watching him in Lucifer, I think he
is 44.
He is 44, and so I think he probably has, as I say, missed the boat. Had Craig not done No Time to Die,
Yeah.
I think I would have put him in there. I think it is probably past him now. It's just a shame because I think he would have been a perfect choice.
Yeah.
But I also think they'll be looking for a slightly more diverse casting than that, which may well happen. And so it could well be a name that we haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
Like Reggae Jean Page was thrown around a lot.
I suspect they'll be looking for younger and less well-known talent.
Yeah.
So that they can find someone and make them Bond, rather than have Bond be turned into Richard Madden or Bond be turned into Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
I think the main reason Aaron Taylor Johnson was in the running was because of Bullet Train.
Sure.
Which is a really funny film.
Yeah.
Like just I don't care what the hell happens in it. I have a great time watching it.
No, it's fun.
Do you know who Fabian Frankel is?
Not from name. I need a picture.
Well, he was in House of the Dragon.
Haven't watched it. Sorry.
We'll get back to that. But he's this man.
He looks familiar.
It's
He
good
looks like
looking like
Orlando Bloom and Oscar Isaac in one.
Sort of, yeah. But like just I don't think he's in the running at all.
No.
I just think he'd be good.
Sure.
He carries a lot of physicality in House of the Dragon. In his character there, his character in House of the Dragon has like a cold streak to him,
Right.
whilst also being highly emotional, and he conveys that quite well.
Sure. Cool.
So I think he could do it.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think he will be in the running at
Right.
all, but I just think
Could do
a dark horse, shall we say?
Well, I'm aware we've been going on for a while, so I want to get on to the very last question, and we can be quick with this. What would you like to happen? What do you want to see from the next Bond film? Because we know there's going to be another one.
Do you know what? I want a studio team to pour their heart and soul into something and have it be mediocre, and then I want to tear it to shreds. That's what I want.
I want another damn podcast episode
If
out
we're
of it.
being honest, that's what I want. No. I want. Oh, you did. No, I want to see the franchise go in a sort of I don't want to say a self-aware direction, but I think Bond needs to grapple, in terms of the health of the franchise, needs to acknowledge that it can't do what it did for Quantum and Spectre.
Okay.
I don't know if it can take a hit like that.
Sure.
It needs to understand that the generation growing up that's going to the cinema now, that engages with this media now, has no loyalty to a franchise such as Bond.
Yeah.
Because there's so many alternatives.
Yeah.
Big franchises they can go and see year on year.
Uh-huh.
So I think the Bond franchise needs to really kind of not get it together. It's in a much better position than than it could be, than a lot of other things out there. You know, it's got a lot of good films behind it, particularly recently.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't understand that it needs to make films that can stand on their own, that can be their own thing, and they're good Bond films, and beyond that they're good spy films, and beyond that they're good films. Yeah. Because if it just tries to coast off of nostalgia or gimmicks or being Bond, I don't know if it can survive that two movie hit in a row. I don't know if the franchise can deal with that. I don't think it can let itself get to that position.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think it has another comeback in it as a franchise.
As Michael Caine says in The Prestige, you've climbed too high to get away with professional embarrassment.
Precisely. Precisely, Michael Caine.
Master Wayne.
So yeah, that's my 2 cents on where I think the franchise needs to go.
Okay.
And what I think needs to happen for this. Because I like it. It's not my
it
favourite.
No, but
I don't think about it on the daily.
Because they don't come out very often.
But every time a Bond comes out, I'm just like, oh, nice, I'll go see that.
Yeah.
So I want that to keep happening. I would like to see it get it together so that it never has to get in the position that it needs another comeback.
No, I think
because I don't know if it has that.
Yeah. Well, I think
particularly with the ways that we consume media are changing, consumer patterns are changing dramatically. No, and I'm not saying that you need to show the next film with like a subsoil surfers panel next to it.
Oh God.
But just
this generation, man.
And I don't want them to turn it into a sequence of quips and one-liners to try and keep the kids with their 6-second attention spans engaged. I'm just saying you need to make films that stand on their own 2 feet much more consistently than you had to before. It's more difficult to stay afloat these days.
This generation's made Michael Bay more popular than ever. I think the way I want it to go, particularly as the start of a new era, is I think MI6 needs to be in disrepute or a reflection of current world order. And I think we need to have a film which proves that a field agent is just as useful as someone sat typing in their pajamas. Because there was an element in No Time to Die, and very heavily in Spectre, that the computers were becoming the thing, and the national security was becoming the thing. And I mean, Ben Whishaw says it when he first gets introduced. He says he could do more damage. He'll hazard that he could do more damage in his pajamas on his laptop before his first cup of Earl Grey than Bond could do in a year in the field. I think we need a film that reestablishes that in this universe, despite the various degrees of shit, there is a need for these agents to still be
for the 00 program.
Yeah, the 00 needs to have a function to exist. Otherwise, it's going to get to a stage where it's going to be like, okay, we're bordering on global, international, complete nuclear discourse. What is one man with a author PPK going to do about it? And a radio. Yeah, what's he going to do about it? I think there needs to be a focus on Bond's role in the wider context of his world, and that needs to be solidified before they can move forward, because otherwise I think people are going to start to lose patience with it. I think, as you say, people's tastes are changing, and actually people are growing more sort of aware about those kind of conditions. If it's forgettable, that feels like game over. And
like I say, I don't think the franchise has another, spare life left in it.
Well, on that cheeriest of notes.
So what did we do?
What did we do? We
did the list.
We did the list. We did the future of Bond. We did franchises. We did Jared Leto's a bastard.
Jesus.
I'll get through one episode. Oh, the big guy. Yeah. Take someone take a note of every time we said Bond in this.
Go through it with a clicker.
Go through it with a clicker or a shot glass.
See how many minutes you get in before you're under the table.
See how many minutes off your life this podcast. Michael, thank you very much for coming along and talking about this.
It was a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll be doing the same again next week if a certain other guest can
certain-
get his shit together.
A certain gentleman can get on the move.
But yeah, sorry for taking a while to get another one of these out again. Stuff, you know. Stuff happens.
Life
and
gets in the way.
Life gets in the way. But hopefully I'll see you again soon. Thank you for listening. Michael, firm fixture now on the podcast. Racking up more listens than anybody else.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Thomas.
And
Just get to talk about my special interest for an hour and a half, so it's great.
Perfect. Well, we'll see you all soon.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much for listening, and bye!